hired Nate Travis, female address, and said she was missing. He thought she was being slick. He waited anxiously, did pass her clock, days later, she found out around.
Hello there. How are you? So, after a few days, he was smitten. Get it? One late night, while he was working at Milwaukee Riverfront, Nate brought Katie coffee just to see her and spend a few minutes with her. Around that same time, she stopped by his old college house while he was celebrating his hiring with his old roommates. That night, she got to meet a special kind of Nate.
What's unique about this story, there's no anniversary. We're different shifts in training. They all decide each other's past shifts. Occasionally hanging out, they move to go home, and they spend those around. Then they were saying second shift together, kept their relationship under wraps to allow for the eventual start to the
But then, one night, Nate went out for a bachelor party, and a coworker asked Nate what he planned to do on his day off. He said he had a wedding to go to. The bachelor himself overheard this, turned to them, and made mention that he was working for Katie on a trade so she could go to a wedding the next day. Oops! Ring, ring, ring. Katie's phone rings late that night. It was Nate. Hello? She said hesitantly. With bachelor partiers in the background, Nate yelled over the background noise, "Don't be mad." And that's how their 5-month-long relationship was found out.
So that fall, Nate and Katie went on a trip to Orlando, Florida, their first getaway together. They began their annual tradition of Christmas light sightseeing that winter. Then that spring they hit a snag in the road. A hiatus because the kid came along. 4 months went by, they both hated it and they both ignored it. They still saw each other daily, talked hourly, and Nate thought about her every minute of every day. He hit a breaking point when over dinner one night his dad and stepmom mentioned that he wasn't listening. Something was missing. And his dad said, "Katie seems right to me." His dad was never wrong. Within a week, they spent a simple but beautiful day together, a day at the beach, a night at a local festival, and the tale of Nate and Katie's young life.
In 2013, Katie was living in Milwaukee while Nate was in Waukesha. She needed a new place and began looking. She found a roommate at an apartment in the same complex as Nate. After a year of living within a few hundred yards of each other, Katie started to wonder where she'd live next. One-bedroom apartments were expensive. Nate did lots of research for Katie, and they even toured some one-bedroom apartments together, trying to find a place all of her own. Katie talked about the dumpy apartments, trying to find the best in them, and how she's decorated to make it hers. Nate pondered for some time and then realized it was time. One day, he surprised her with flowers and a card. The card was a few puppies playing with a stick, and inside it read, "They were supposed to bring you a note, but they were preoccupied with the stick." The note was supposed to read, "You want to be my roomie?" Her response was, "Really?" And she gave him a huge embrace.
Nate has lived in many apartments, so he was certain he was the expert. He researched and they toured apartments together. He believed he had the perfect plan for size, cost, and need. and he found one. He loved it instantly. Kitchen's too small, she chimed in. Her only comment, but she could tell he loved it and went along with him. In late May 2014, they moved in together.
Hello. After just 6 months, Nate knew this was right. They were comfortable together. Few relationships could withstand living together and working the same shift at the same place together, but theirs has thrived. Before he knew it, Nate started suggesting things like getting a joint bank account for bills, pets. He's still holding out for Mittens the cat. And the future of buying a house together. Who was this new person, he wondered? He realized that this was the time people talked about when they said, "You'll know when it's time."
Nate and Katie attended their sister's weddings over the next few months. At each wedding, he pictured himself with her and realized that's how it was supposed to be, and he'd known it all along. Looking back on the past 4 years, he always knew. In early March, he called his family and told them he was ready. Within a few weeks, Nate's mom had fallen ill. In her last hours, Nate spent a few minutes alone with her. She drifted further and further away that day, barely responding to any stimuli. He sat next to her, held her hand, and cried. He told her that he planned to marry Kate and wished she could be there for her. With this news, her eyebrows and mouth twitched repeatedly. It was a sign that she heard and she was happy. Nate's sister Amanda believed that she was holding on to find happiness and know her children would be taken care of. The night Nate told her that he planned to marry Katie, she let go and passed away.
So Nate's always been a terrible liar. He's always had this obvious shiftiness to his eyes when he does. Katie's always known this. And then one day Katie was sleeping after work. Nate snuck out of the house and met his dad and stepmom at the jewelry store. He found the one within the hour. They went to a quick lunch and he snuck back home. Katie awoke and asked how lunch was. His mind raced, 150 miles an hour, and it was like word vomit. He shouted out loudly, "Oh, it's fine!" Realizing how obvious he was, he thought, she could see right through him, so then he shouted out, "Lunch is really good. We just went to lunch, that was all." It felt like he was yelling that he just bought a ring for her, but she never questioned it.
Not too many weeks ago, Nate sat in his truck near a finish line waiting for Katie to finish her half marathon. He chewed his fingernails off. He wondered what to say and how to say it. Finally, he picked up the phone, he dialed and heard, "Hello? Hi, Dwayne, it's Nate. Do you have a minute?" He did, and shared that he was happy to allow Nate to ask Katie to be with him forever. By now, Nate and Mandy had been little mice emailing, texting, and sharing blinks and smirks when they saw each other as she helped plan the event. Amanda, Nate's sister, couldn't even manage to make eye contact with her. She was bursting with excitement. But the biggest boost of them all had been many months earlier. Nate, his dad, and his stepmom Mary sat down for dinner. Mary had a look that said she had to tell him something. He knows the look. She told Nate she could tell he was ready and pulled out a magazine ad showing Nate engagement rings. Nate scoffed, putting on his tough guy case, but on the drive home, a sudden rush came over him. She's right. Moms are always right.
Every relationship has its quirks and inside jokes, but Nate and Katie is special. Nate has her favorite pets already picked out. Dogs named Boots and Fido. They'll have many cats. Everybody, somebody, nobody, and Mittens. You see, after Katie was disgusted by Nate's cat obsession, he realized he couldn't have one.
So he found an imaginary one, Mittens. Mittens hangs around their house and tends to do a lot of things wrong, suspiciously. It always seems like things Nate would do. Early on, Nate and Katie always talked about all of their differences. Nate loves basketball, video games, and lifting weights. Katie loves running, Under Armour, and online shopping. Almost all of those things are now together, things that they love together. Katie got Nate a 5-pack of Bucks tickets for Christmas, and he dragged her along for all of those games. Now she can name almost every player on the team and nervously screamed, shouted, and was more furious than Nate when they lost in the playoffs. Believe it or not, Nate wasn't always obsessed with Under Armour. That came from Katie. Katie and Nate routinely go to the gym and lift weights together now. Sadly though, Nate still can't run for more than a mile before keeling over like a fat kid. Okay, so maybe there are still just a few differences. But they still fit together. She scratches his back like his granny always did. She stares at her watch mockingly, counting the minutes Nate stares in the mirror. They fist bump after a good workout. Sitting in roll call, he'll text her, "Greedy," just to make sure she knows it every day. And before they go to work together, every night, she shares 3 kisses and a be safe because Nate doesn't know where.
Hold on, we're not done yet.
Woo!